Here you're being asked to evaluate which of these following statements, whether these following statements are true or false. So let's take a look at the first statement. The nitrogen-nitrogen bond here is a polar covalent bond. So nitrogen and nitrogen are bonded together here. They both have the same electronegativity. So in that case, it most likely will be a covalent bond because they're sharing electrons equally. And because they are sharing electrons equally, one of them is not going to be partially positive and the other one's not going to be partially negative. So most likely this is a non-polar covalent bond. So this statement is actually false. So taking a look at the next statement, this arsenic-arsenic bond is an ionic bond. Again, these are the same atoms here bonded together. And because they're the same atom bonded together, they're sharing electrons equally. So there's not a huge electronegativity difference between the two atoms. So most likely this is a covalent bond. Looking at the next statement, it says this is a bromine and zinc bond here. And it's saying that it is a nonpolar covalent bond. Because zinc and bromine is pretty far apart, I would say relatively pretty far apart from each other. Zinc is in the d block transition metals, bromine is in group 7. There's a pretty big electronegativity difference between these two atoms, so it most likely would be an ionic bond. And they're probably not sharing electrons equally due to their difference in electronegativity. Due to their difference in electronegativity, the bromine is definitely more electronegative than the zinc, so it's probably pulling more electrons closer to it. So the zinc probably has a partially positive charge and the bromine has a partially negative charge. So this would be a polar bond. So the statement is false. So looking at the next statement, it says, although fluorine is the most electronegative atom, it can form nonpolar bonds. So yes, it is the most electronegative atom, that is true. However, if it's bonded to something that is also with the same electronegativity, as in it's bonded to itself, then yes, it can form a nonpolar bond because it is sharing electrons equally. So if it's a fluorine-fluorine bond, then the statement is true. So looking at the final statement, it says ionic bonds here are formed when two atoms share electrons. So this statement clearly here is false because this here is the definition for a covalent bond. Covalent bonds are formed when two atoms share electrons. Ionic bonds are not formed in this way. One of the atoms will steal an electron from the other atom. So this statement is false.